Welcome back. We continue looking at reaction now following the announcement of the passing of King Goodwill Zwelithini, and various quarters have lauded the king for his leadership. Many have called him a unifier, saying that he presided over peace, a peaceful KwaZulu-Natal, that he played a special role in that he ensured the AmaZulu kept to their traditions, and he brought back some that had been forgotten. We speak now to Professor Somadoda Fikeni, who is a heritage and royalty expert. A very good evening to you, Prof, and thank you so much for speaking to us. So let's just first start with from the beginning. So in 1968, the king's father died and a regent was appointed to look after the administration of the royal affairs, while King Zwelithini himself completed his education. He's been called a wise man, as I mentioned, but there was also a heated debate between the South African government and the KwaZulu-Natal royal family over the choice of regency. How significant was this in shaping him as a leader and his vision?
Well, I do think that if you look at the time he presided over the Zulu kingdom, it was one of the most eventful period under the apartheid government. Then he existed within KwaZulu homeland. And then he was there during the time of the conflicts that you saw between the IFP and the ANC. And he tried to navigate all those spaces. That takes a leader who is quite seasoned in many ways, because right from the time he took over when he was relatively young and up to the time where he has been, you can see the milestones and the impact that he has had.
I mean, some of what has been said, including within the quarters of the ANC, was the fact that, he was a man who spoke his mind, and certainly between himself and the party, there were barbs over the political direction or so-called interference on his part, as he was accused of. But as you say, he presided over peace. But what was it about him that has helped him coalesce the AmaZulu during the time of conflict?
Well, I do think that he managed to interact with the conflicting and the contending political forces, in this case, the IFP and the ANC. And that in itself was not the easiest of things when you consider the fact that almost 20,000 people died. But thereafter, he was able in the post-1994 period to call for peace and to propagate peace over a longer period. And that in itself, I think, made it easy for him to navigate the spaces between the erstwhile contending parties, that is the IFP and the ANC. And that in itself, I think, to him is one of those things that won him respect, because not many leaders would have navigated that complex space.
So let's talk about some of the complexities that confronted his leadership. So following his coronation, the country's constitution made the king's role ceremonial and was subject to the authority of the chief minister at the time, Inkosi Buthelezi. The two are close relations, but they also had different views at some point. Take us through the importance of this particular relationship and the hierarchy.
Well, the importance here is the fact that, one, they are related. As you said, you'll remember that Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi's mother is the sister, to the king's, parent. So that in itself brings him closer to the royal family. But also, Prince Buthelezi is the head of the Buthelezi clan, or the Buthelezi clan himself. So that being doubled up with Prince Buthelezi being the leader of the then KwaZulu homeland. But what is most interesting in this case is the fact that Buthelezi, as the head of the KwaZulu homeland, also assisted in a rekindling the very notion of the kingship of KwaZulu, because he institutionalized this in the education system. He memorialized the kingship and he himself being a historian. Of course, what was quite complex in this case was how then this could be appropriated for political reasons by both the IFP and the ANC, or just generally any other party which was operating within the kingdom itself. That in itself, I think, was the one tricky aspect. Going into the negotiations again, you saw how close the king and the IFP were in terms of the positions that they were bargaining for. Hence, you do have the Ingonyama Trust. But beyond that, you begin to see the king navigating the space and being a lot more autonomous in his role.
Okay. Now, I want to continue along this vein of the relevance of the monarchy in South Africa and the traditional leadership role that they play, and the different understandings of the Ingonyama Trust, for instance. That was one of the most important parts of the king's legacy, but one that has also invoked controversy. How do you think it will be recorded in history, his role, especially given the fact that he said it was important, the need for trust and land ownership as occupancy? It was a contested topic as well.
Remember that the land tenure issue and the land itself has been central in the South African history, pre-colonial and during the wars of resistance against colonialism. So the issue of the land during the democratic transition and who controls it remains one of the most contentious issues, even in areas where you had no Ngonyama Trust. You still have traditional leaders having a dual authority, that is, they control the land even where municipalities in the rural communities do provide services. So the Ngonyama Trust was taking that very same model but expanding it across the kingdom itself. That's where you find the differences. The questions as to how it has been handled and how it has afforded different communities autonomies, it's something that will be debated for a very long time to come. And it's something that, does indicate the duality of authority between the traditional authority and our democratic system, which has to try and reconcile the issue of human rights in a modern sense and the issue of communal land and the traditional values, which are enshrined in the 12th chapter of the Constitution itself.
Thank you so much for speaking to us and sharing your insights. Professor Somadoda Fikeni, who is a heritage and royalty expert, and of course we'll continue looking at the life, times, works and contribution of King Goodwill Zwelithini, kaBhekuzulu. Now, in news just then, President Cyril Ramaphosa has declared a special official funeral for the late Zulu King Goodwill Zwelithini. It will be a Category 1 funeral. The national flag will also be flown at half-mast across the country from tomorrow until the evening of the funeral. Earlier, the president joined millions of South Africans in paying tribute to the king. Acting presidential spokesperson